Erin Moran hated her role on Happy Days, This Is Why. Erin Moran, an American actress beloved for her iconic role as Joni Cunningham on the classic television sitcom Happy Days, was born on October 18, 1960, in Burbank, California. Raised in a family of 6 children, she displayed a passion for acting from a young age, and her parents were quick to recognize her talent. By the time she was 5 years old, Erin had already started her professional acting career, landing roles in commercials, television shows, and movies. Her early start in Hollywood set the stage for a career that, although brief in its high points, left a lasting mark on the entertainment industry. Erin's big break came in 1974 when she was cast as Joni Cunningham, the spunky younger sister of Richie Cunningham, played by Ron Howard, in Happy Days. The show became a pop culture phenomenon and ran for 11 seasons, during which Erin's portrayal of Joni made her one of America's most recognizable faces. Viewers loved her for her charm, comedic timing, and relatable teenage struggles, which she brought to life with warmth and authenticity. Her character grew over the years, transforming from a precocious little sister to a central figure with her own storyline. The chemistry between Erin and co-star Scott Baio, who played her love interest, Chachi, led to a spin-off series titled Joni Loves Chachi in 1982. Though the show only lasted 1 season, it solidified her status as a television sweetheart. Erin Moran, best known for her role as Joni Cunningham on the beloved TV sitcom Happy Days, had a complicated relationship with the character that catapulted her to fame. Although Happy Days was an iconic series that defined American television in the 1970s and 1980s, Moran later expressed her discontent with her role on the show, and it wasn't just about the stereotypical nature of the character. It was about how she felt confined by the portrayal of Joni and the impact it had on her career. Joni Cunningham, Erin Moran's character, began as the younger, wholesome sister of Richie Cunningham, played by Ron Howard. In the early seasons, she was portrayed as the sweet, innocent girl next door, who often served as the moral compass or the voice of reason in her family and friend group. While this innocent role was endearing to audiences, it also came with limitations. As Moran got older, she began to feel that Joni's character was not evolving. The character's primary function was often to serve as a backdrop to the male character's storylines, particularly the adventures of her brother Richie and the iconic Fonzie, played by Henry Winkler. Moran later spoke about the frustration of being typecast as the good girl, trapped in a role that offered little room for growth or depth. This stagnation of her character became more pronounced as she entered her teenage years and began to desire more challenging and varied roles, ones that could stretch her acting abilities beyond the confines of the wholesome Joni. Moran expressed disappointment that, despite her years of dedication to the show, Joni's evolution into a more complex character was limited. She was often seen as the supporting character who existed mostly in the shadow of the central male leads. As Happy Days progressed, so did Moran's dissatisfaction with the direction the show was taking. The storyline arcs became increasingly predictable, and Joni's character was often placed in predictable, stereotypical situations. In particular, Joni's involvement in a love triangle with Chachi, played by Scott Baio, felt like a recycled plotline, as the show shifted its focus to appeal to a younger, more romantic audience. For Moran, the introduction of her on-screen romance felt more like a convenient plot device than a meaningful development for her character. One of the major sources of Moran's discontent was her exclusion from the show's transition in tone. As the series progressed, Happy Days shifted away from its earlier, lighthearted, family-centered episodes into more exaggerated, sometimes absurd, storylines. Moran felt that the show lost its heart as it became more about the characters' eccentric antics, especially the over-the-top persona of the Fonz. This change made her feel increasingly disconnected from the essence of the show and her role within it. Her frustrations grew, as she felt sidelined and undervalued as a central member of the cast. Another factor contributing to Moran's negative feelings about her role was the challenge of growing up in the public eye. When she joined Happy Days, she was just a young teenager. As she entered her 20s, the pressure of being tied to the image of Joni Cunningham took its toll. The public's perception of her as the sweet, innocent girl made it difficult for her to branch out and be seen as a more mature, capable actress. In interviews, Moran revealed that she often struggled with being pigeonholed, and she longed for the opportunity to take on more adult and varied roles. The typecasting became a source of anxiety, as her options for post-Happy Days work seemed limited to roles that mirrored the one that had made her famous. Additionally, being part of such a massive cultural phenomenon brought an immense amount of pressure. Moran has openly discussed how the public's expectations of her were often unrealistic, and she felt the burden of being stuck in a role that no longer felt authentic to who she was becoming as an adult. She wasn't just a talented young actress, she was Joni Cunningham, and the two personas seemed irreconcilable. When Happy Days ended in 1984, Erin Moran found herself struggling to break free from her iconic role. Many child stars have experienced similar challenges in transitioning from their beloved on-screen personas to more mature roles, and Moran was no exception. The audience had a hard time seeing her as anything other than Joni Cunningham, which severely limited her career opportunities. She had some attempts at finding new roles, but none of them reached the same level of success or recognition. Moran did have a brief stint in a Happy Days spin-off show, Joni Loves Chachi, where she reprised her role as Joni and continued her on-screen romance with Chachi. However, the show was short-lived, and it only further solidified her connection to the role that she had come to resent. Although she appeared in other television shows and films, such as The Love Boat, Murder, She Wrote, and Family Guy, she was unable to escape the shadow of Joni, and her career never regained the spotlight it once had. Beyond her dissatisfaction with the creative direction of Happy Days, Erin Moran also felt that she was somewhat mistreated by the producers and creators of the show. As the series continued to grow in popularity, Moran became increasingly frustrated with how she and her character were treated behind the scenes. She was particularly disheartened by the lack of recognition she received in comparison to the show's central stars, Henry Winkler and Ron Howard. While Winkler and Howard were often the focus of interviews, accolades, and attention, Moran felt as though her contributions to the success of the show were overlooked. Her feelings of being undervalued only intensified as Happy Days entered its later years. She was often left out of promotional materials and was not included in key storylines, even though she had been an integral part of the show from the very beginning. This exclusion only deepened her resentment, and she spoke candidly about how this affected her sense of worth as an actress. Moran even admitted that she felt betrayed by the show's creators, who she felt had neglected her in favor of other, more marketable stars. In hindsight, Erin Moran's relationship with Happy Days is complex. While the show undoubtedly provided her with fame and recognition, it also imposed limitations on her as an actress and as an individual. Her frustration with the role of Joni Cunningham was not just about the character itself, but about how it shaped her identity in the public eye and affected her career prospects. The idealized, wholesome image of Joni was hard to escape from, and Moran struggled to reconcile that image with the person she was becoming in her private life. Moran's feelings of resentment toward Happy Days and her role as Joni Cunningham are a reminder of the difficult reality faced by many child stars. The pressures of fame, typecasting, and growing up in front of the public can take a heavy toll. Though her time on Happy Days made her a household name, it also came with a sense of confinement that she could never fully escape. Ultimately, Erin Moran's experiences with the show reflect the complexities of being a child star in a rapidly changing industry and the challenges of trying to transition from an iconic role to a more varied and fulfilling career. Despite her early fame, Erin Moran's post-Happy Days career proved to be a challenge. The transition from child star to adult actress is often difficult, and Moran was no exception. She struggled to find roles that could match the success of her time on Happy Days. While she continued to appear in guest spots on shows like The Love Boat and Murder, She Wrote, her career never quite reached the same heights. Erin also faced personal difficulties, including financial struggles and battles with depression, which took a toll on her over the years. Her struggles were compounded by the pressures of living in the public eye, as her personal challenges often made headlines, overshadowing her earlier accomplishments. Erin's personal life was marked by both love and hardship. She married Rocky Ferguson in 1987, but the marriage ended in divorce in 1993. Later, she found happiness with Stephen Fleischman, whom she married in 1993. Together, they faced many of the ups and downs of life. But despite her efforts to reclaim her personal and professional happiness, Moran's health began to decline in the years before her passing. Tragically, Erin Moran died on April 22, 2017, at the age of 56. It was later revealed that she had been battling stage 4 throat cancer, a condition that she had kept largely private from the public. Her passing was a devastating loss for her family, friends, and the many fans who had grown up watching her on television.